Welcome in. Today, we're going to talk about something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, a technique that can actually claim to read your mind. And get this, it's so powerful it was used to solve a real crime more than 100 years ago. We're talking about a method that can pull out secrets you might not even know you're keeping.
So can a simple word game really expose a thief? I mean, it sounds like something you'd read in a Sherlock Holmes story, right? But here's the thing, this is totally real. More than a century ago, one of the absolute pioneers of psychology decided to put this exact idea to the test. And what he found out? Well, it completely changed how we understand the human mind.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1905. Psychology is this brand new field, kind of like the Wild West of science, and it's desperately trying to prove it's the real deal. In steps this physician, a guy named Carl Jung, with a pretty wild idea. He thinks that our unconscious thoughts, the stuff we're not even aware of, can actually betray our deepest secrets. And how? Through simple, everyday words. He's cooked up an experiment, and now all he needs is the perfect case to prove he's right.
And wouldn't you know it, a case just falls right into his lap. And we're not talking about some police case file. Nope, this one walks right into his office. It's a frantic, very respectable gentleman who's got a crisis on his hands that could ruin his family's reputation. So, here's the deal. This gentleman has a serious problem. He's convinced that his 18-year-old protege, this kid he's taken under his wing, has been stealing money from a locked strongbox. But he absolutely cannot call the police. It would cause a huge family scandal. So his idea is, hey, Dr. Jung, can you hypnotize the kid to get the truth? But Jung, he sees a much bigger opportunity here. A chance to test his revolutionary new idea, the association experiment.
All right, so what exactly is this word association experiment? I mean, on the surface, it looks like a simple word game, but trust me, its real power lies in this completely new way of thinking about how our minds are put together, and, more importantly, how they can give away our secrets.
Okay, here's how it works, and it's really pretty straightforward. Step 1, the experimenter says a random word, the stimulus. Let's say head. Step 2, the person being tested, the subject, has to reply as fast as humanly possible with the very first word that pops into their mind. So hat, or pain, or leader, whatever it is. And step 3 is the analysis. Jung believed the connection between those words wasn't random at all. He saw it as a little window, a peek directly into the mind. And this is the revolutionary part. You see, before Jung, most people just thought these word connections were, totally random. But Jung said, no way. He was convinced our reactions are anything but random. He believed they're determined by these secret contents of our mind, these emotionally charged ideas hiding just under the surface.
So, what are these secret contents or emotionally charged ideas he was talking about? Well, Jung gave them a name that you've almost certainly heard before. He called them complexes.
Okay, let's break that down. A feeling-toned complex, that's the technical term, is basically a web of ideas, memories, and impulses all tangled together by a really strong emotion. Could be guilt, could be love, could be a secret ambition. Think of it like a hidden planet in your mind. It has its own gravity, and it secretly pulls your thoughts and behaviors into its orbit without you even realizing it. Jung actually gave this incredible example from his own work that makes this super clear. He's testing a young guy who's just gone through a really bad breakup. So Jung says the stimulus word, to kiss. Now, a normal response might be lips or love, but this guy says again and again. Then Jung says to part. The guy's response, I need not. You see what's happening? His heartbreak complex is completely hijacking his brain, revealing this story of longing that he's consciously trying to push down.
So how do you actually spot one of these hidden complexes? It's like being a detective of the mind. Jung found 3 key clues to look for. First, the reaction itself is just weird. It's an unusual word choice or it's deeply personal. Second, and this is huge, is a delay. The person hesitates. Jung literally used a stopwatch, and he noticed that when a stimulus word hits a complex, the brain stutters for a second. That hesitation is a major red flag. And third, they can't remember their answer later. When Jung went back and asked them to recall their responses, they draw a blank right at those critical, emotionally loaded spots.
Okay, so armed with this new method, let's get back to our case of the stolen money. Jung puts together a list of words for the young suspect, but hidden inside that list, like little landmines, are carefully chosen words designed to trigger what he called a potential theft complex. The stage is set, the experiment begins.
And while the results were immediate and just damning. Now, for someone like him, the average reaction time should be less than 2 seconds. But just look at this data. The stimulus word is thief. His reaction time, 4.6 seconds. That's more than double the average. And see that yes in the last column? That means he later couldn't remember what he said. Then look at jail, 4.2 seconds. Police, 3.6 seconds. A crystal clear pattern was showing up. His mind was tripping over every single word related to the crime.
But it wasn't just about the numbers on the page. Jung was watching the kid's body language too. He started getting restless, fidgeting in his chair, making these awkward, embarrassed little laughs. The pressure of his own mind betraying him, word by word, just became too much. And in the face of all this evidence, he completely broke down, burst into tears, and confessed to everything.
So, case closed, right? A huge, stunning success for psychology. You'd think so. But for Carl Jung, the scientist, a confession just wasn't enough. I mean, an anecdote, no matter how convincing it seems, isn't hard data. He knew he had to prove that the method itself was scientifically sound. He needed to be sure he could separate a real signal from just random noise.
And this is where he shows what a true scientist he was. To make sure his results were real, he ran control experiments. He tested 2 other people, both totally innocent. One of them knew what the experiment was about. He was the informed control. The other knew absolutely nothing about the theft at all. He was the uninvolved control.
And this is where the whole thing takes a fascinating twist. Because get this, the innocent people also had reactions that looked guilty. For example, when the uninvolved guy heard the word thief, he hesitated for a long time, said to punish, and then couldn't remember it later. But he wasn't a thief. It turns out he'd just been fired from his job and had this massive complex about feeling like he was being unfairly punished. So the word thief triggered his personal complex, not a theft complex. This was a huge problem.
So now Jung has this fundamental problem on his hands. If any innocent person can give a false positive just because of their own personal stuff, then how can you ever trust this test? How could Jung have been so sure that the first kid was actually the one who did it?
Well, the answer, Jung figured out, wasn't about any single dramatic reaction. It was about the overall quantitative pattern. It wasn't about one gotcha moment. The real key was looking at the big picture, the whole statistical pattern of disturbance across all the words.
This chart right here shows the brilliant insight. Jung looked at the reaction time for the word that came after a critical one, like thief. His theory was that a real emotional shock would linger, kind of like an echo in the mind, and slow down the next reaction. And the data is so clear. Just look at the bar for the culprit. His reaction time on the next word is way, way higher than the 2 innocent guys. The emotional echo from his guilt complex was just stronger and lasted longer.
And it wasn't just reaction time. He saw the exact same pattern with memory. Yeah, all the subjects had a few memory slips on those tough words, but the actual culprit, he had a staggering 90% memory failure rate on the critical words. Again, the numbers, the quantitative signal, was just so much stronger for him, it wasn't even close. You know, what's really important here is that Jung himself was the first one to say, hey, be careful with this. He published this case not just to show off, but to actually warn people. He said this is an incomparably fine psychological method, but he also knew it could easily be brought into discredit by drastic failures. He saw right away how powerful it was and how easily it could be misused.
And that really is the main takeaway from this whole incredible story. The word association experiment is not some simple lie detector. It's way more subtle than that. It's a delicate instrument for exploring the unconscious. It doesn't find facts so much as it reveals the emotional ripples caused by our hidden complexes. And figuring that out, well, that takes a ton of skill and some serious analysis.
So Jung's experiment basically kicked open a door into the unconscious mind, and its influence on psychology has been massive for over 100 years. But it also leaves us with this really big and honestly kind of unsettling question. Our unconscious minds hold our deepest secrets, but if they can be read, who exactly is qualified to do the reading?